Tricks, just uh, giving you a little intro before our big 3-year anniversary podcast. Just to announce that we have merch. You can buy basically anything with the Dissonant Waves logo on it now. I updated the logo, made it a little bigger, rounded it. You can get T-shirts in two patterns with one in the center, one in the on like the breast, and we also you can get the Dissonant Waves logo on like a phone case, clock, puzzle, mask, stickers, buttons, all that. And yeah.
Hello, and welcome to Minisode 25 of Dissonant Waves, our third anniversary show.
Yeah. Fuck.
Hello. You're hearing me talk on a phone for the first time ever on this podcast. I've talked on different machines before. I've talked through different headsets and microphones. I believe this is the first time ever in however many years that we are that I've ever been doing it on a phone. What a time to do it.
Hell yeah.
I'm coming over COVID now as well, so that's a fun time. We all three got COVID like a couple weeks apart.
Yeah.
Really nice
Yeah, I mean,
COVID sandwich there.
a bit more of a difference between me and Trix than there was between you and Trix though when it comes to time though.
And something like that. Yeah. But we have our anniversary to talk about, and our third fucking thing coming up on year. We're going to be starting year 4 soon. But also, we have an album that's discussed this time around. We decided to cover Home Like No Place There Is by the Hotelier.
Home like no place is there.
Home
By
Like
the
No Place
Hotelier.
Is There. Did I say there
Yeah.
is? Damn.
There is, unfortunate, but I actually want you to kind of do the introduction if you can here, Dominic, because I've seen you've been doing a shit ton of research over the past 2 weeks, and I feel like you can probably open up with some of that knowledge right now if you want to.
Yes, the Hotelier came out with an album, and they came out with a second one, and they kind of had a whole little disclaimer of sorts that came with it. And my favorite quote from this is oh, where it I have it written down. Hold on.
The disclaimer, from what I remember, was practically a trigger warning. It was saying, hey, there is some pretty heavy content in here which could
Yes.
potentially upset those who aren't quite ready to hear it.
They
Not that
said, and they said, have a happy album or Rugrats in Paris nearby.
Yeah.
And Rugrats in Paris is a movie. It's sometimes a sad, sometimes a happy movie. Not entirely one I think would be a panacea for an emo song, but
just he picked the right woman at the end. That always makes me smile.
yeah, but the beginning is so sad with Chucky and his mom and everything. Ugh.
All right. I mean, the first Rugrats movie isn't exactly too lighthearted as well. It's a bunch of kids running away, and then
Yes,
they get
but
fucking lost in the forest. I
this
mean,
is true.
honestly, is Rugrats just emo?
Hey,
Yeah.
you know what? Maybe it is. Maybe that's
Yeah,
that's the
maybe.
key to unlocking fourth wave, fifth wave emo is just the Rugrats, and that's
Yeah.
fine.
So as we're doing these introductions, I picked a Hotelier here because, as I said on the last episode, there's a lot of fifth wave bands that talk about this album in particular being a bit kind of big inspiration for them or just this band in total. I mean, uh, Homer's Ware's interview where they did in Fantano, there's the great line where they say, "Oh, the Hotelier is broken up. What do we do now?" And it's kind of like the bands that they're listening to. Obviously, in your research, you searched up with Awake but Still in Bed. I don't know why I said obviously in this case, but
Yeah,
she
we
put
could. Yeah, she also put the Hotelier
Hotelier,
on her top emo band list.
and that's not just of a certain wave or a certain time; it's of all time. So
Mm-hmm.
there's quite a bit of like uh hype around this album, a bit of kind of a following. I know in are such indie heads. I believe this was voted in in around the 60s mark or something as the for their best albums of the whole decade. I believe that was like the highest placing emo album in that poll as well. So that's quite an online buzz for
Yeah.
this album. And it's kind of a great central point in kind of talking when we're talking about all kind of like the emo that we kind of like been talking about in this podcast. I mean,
Yes,
we haven't granted haven't really done much before the fifth wave. I believe this is one of the first fourth waves that we've done. Depending on what you
basically.
consider artists like My Chemical Romance, if you consider that's third wave. I mean, technically we could also consider Cardinal Heart to be fourth wave.
Oh my god, we could. Holy
God,
shit.
yeah. Fuck.
Yeah.
I
I love
am
that.
not awake enough to process that information fully.
But I think it's
I don't think
interesting.
you can be awake enough to be able to process that fully when Dominic was still going, holy shit.
Um, but I think it's interesting to discuss also, like, the fourth wave seems to have ended with a bit of a crash, with a bit of kind of like, what Homer's word quote is like, oh, the hotelier is broken up, what do we do? Like, that's kind of what that whole scene kind of seems to be like, like, with brand new, what happened with that, what happened with Jank, what happened, with a number of these different bands either breaking up because of bad things happening or just breaking up. This was
It's
a
a weird thing to talk about kind of brand new in that sense because they actually whilst they are more a third wave, they actually did put out a kind of revival album kind of at that end of the fourth wave and then had all the allegations come out.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
it seems like the fourth wave happened, but it should have happened more.
Yeah, there definitely was a long wave of like I say wave kind of here, and I kind of just realize how great of a term that is to use. But unfortunately, there were a lot of allegations that came out across to create a lot of bands that are considered in fourth wave. I know
Right.
we talked
Mm.
about Jank there, and we talked a bit about Jank actually when we did Soul Glow because of Ruben Polo. Um, but I know artists like we covered Foxtails, which obviously they're like fifth wave and stuff like that, but they had allegations as well. I
They,
think Foxtails has been around for a while.
yeah.
Um, Tiny
Mm,
Moving Parts is another fourth wave one. I know they've had some allegations come out against the member, the vocalist in that one. I don't exactly remember what's happened with that one though.
I don't know.
Uh,
But even like
Mum
with
Jean, they've had bullying allegations, if I can remember. Same
mom
with
jeans been
Remo.
bullying people.
Uh, bullied back in they were bullies back in high school was the
Oh
allegation, which is
wow, interesting.
kind
That's a
of weird.
strange allegation.
Yeah. Remo Drive, I know the ex-girlfriend came out with some shit, but it wasn't really taken as seriously as some of the other ones. And to be honest, I don't have enough information to tell you fully on that. I believe Sorority Noise also had some shit, but I couldn't remember. There's actually like this huge spreadsheet on r/emo joke of like all these allegations that have happened against
Right.
different artists, and a lot of them are fourth wave. When you say there's a bit of a crash, there was unfortunately just a lot of shit people in the scene.
But
There
even
was
then,
a
there were. Go ahead.
I was gonna say there was a great joke tweet I saw a while ago that said that fifth wave emo is heavily queer coded because fourth wave emo ran out of women to abuse.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I still remember the Ken M. I think it's the Ken M treat, which is the I left the band when they didn't know the difference between A minor and a minor.
But like, even aside from that, you have other bands, and that may not have exactly had the allegations, but had other stuff happening. Modern baseball being a great example that broke up in like 6 years. You
Yeah,
have
Mm.
I believe that one. The room, like I obviously talking about rumors isn't always so helpful.
right.
But I believe there was rumors that Brendan or something. I can't remember their name. All I remember is I believe they go by they now.
Oh,
Uh, apparently
Oh.
had some apparently had some drug issues or something, which led to a bit of drug and mental health issues. I know mental health ones were definitely something they spoke out about that they had a lot of stress problems or anxiety
hmm
with. So I know that that was one reason for them. And actually, modern baseball were like probably set to go even bigger than a lot of these other artists as well, because they actually reached not a huge amount, but actually a bit of popularity over here as well, which is pretty rare for artists that are considered in that fourth wave scene.
I mean, they're the ones that were being covered by, like, you know, if we're going back to the Lucas Kuka stuff, he was doing them pretty quickly. But then you even have stuff like, you know, the front bottoms, which are not exactly fourth wave, but are definitely lumped in that sort of era of, like, you know, you were listening to Town of the Hawk around that time. You were listening
Yeah.
to the front bottoms around that time, and they had some allegations, I know.
Yeah, it was mostly against the trumpet player or something, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
I think it was against. I can't tell you all the allegations or I mean, there's something that I don't like to exactly keep in my head. The every allegation that's happening against every member, against every
Right.
band, or that would be a helpful talent to have in this specific scenario.
Yeah.
But from what I remember, I believe that was actually one of the cases where it was one of the touring members that the allegations were against, not actually one of the studio members.
There's a joke about being too horny there that I can't quite put together for being too toad.
But you also
There's a
have
joke.
Marietta, also broken up.
Mm.
You have, I think Foxing is still going, at least. There is that.
Boxing is still going. There are some fourth wave
Yes.
artists that are still going, even with the if allegations or not. I know Tiny Moving Parts is still going. I know Mum Jeans put out an album this year as well, which actually wasn't too bad, but that's something I'm particularly anxious to bring up.
Title Fight, still going. For talking legacy acts, Weezer, of course, is still around.
Mm.
But yeah, so there's, out of the ashes of the fourth wave and kind of associated genre, there is now a fifth wave. And we've done a lot to cover the basics of the fifth wave and kind of get introduced and all of that.
Yeah, I'm bringing up obviously in the next episode one of the artists that was kind of my big introduction going into fifth wave with Awake But Still in Bed, but one
Mm-hmm.
that is kind of like another. I call it kind of transitional because they didn't really exist in the period of time that fourth wave did, but they also kind of didn't really put their stuff out as fifth wave was starting, so it's kind of a bit transitional. Oh, it's actually this Chinese band called Chinese Football.
Huh.
I saw that. I was very
And
curious about that.
yeah, it's kind of a play on American football, but it actually is very much influenced by the fourth wave kind of and even American football, so third wave kind of sound, and they yeah, there's not much emo that I know of in China, not much musicians that I know of in China.
Yeah.
Um, but that one, I can't even remember how the hell I found that. I think it was just some random like rabbit hole that I went through and just found that band, and uh, that was just like the kind of stuff I was listening into 2018. And I mean, it's kind of seen now that 2018 is around the era that the fifth wave kind of started,
Yeah.
but didn't really kind of blow up until like late 2019, early 2020.
Yeah, like if it was 2018, that was kind of like when people were just starting to put stuff out. You know, it was like the beginnings of it. You know, if you were putting stuff out after that, you were fine. But
Because
if you,
I think I discovered Origami Angel like early 2019, but they kind of started to blow up a bit more when they released a single for the first album, which was like the end of 2019,
mm-hmm.
and that was kind of when like everyone else was starting to blow up a bit more.
Right.
Gotcha.
Not to say that these artists were unknown or anything, because obviously I'm not trying to say like, oh, I was one of the first 10 people to find this band, because that's never been me.
I can
But
only claim that one time so far.
yeah. But there was definitely a big difference between the popularity of fifth wave at the start of 2019 and there was at the end of it.
Yes.
Mm. And obviously we've seen obviously on the past year and stuff. I know Dominic and Trix might be referencing a bit of the playlist that I posted up here, and one of the more controversial ones that I posted up there was Machine Gun Kelly. And that's kind of the more mainstream emo kind of starting to come back as well, which I think is in a way also made some of this underground emo probably get a bit of an indirect boost.
Yeah,
If you
probably.
kind of
Yeah.
understand what I by that. Because I mean,
Yeah.
you don't see those types of artists like Machine Gun or Olivia Rodrigo, who's also seen as kind of that emo revival.
Sure.
Uh, it's
Um,
kind of weird that like the mainstream is kind of like considered like emo revival when there's like a fifth wave that was revived just before it, but
right.
that's just
Yeah.
it's kind of
It's
where we are at the moment.
they're running in two parallel tracks almost.
Yeah, it's definitely odd, and honestly, only one of them's really like seeming to go anywhere. Like I like the Olivia Rodrigo album. I thought she was actually putting out some good performances and some good songs, but I don't actually see much evolution for that.
I'm
Kind of
I'm
mm,
mhm.
not much direction for that whatever vehicle we want to call it to be moving in. I think it's just kind of going one way and then it's just eventually going to find its destination and just coast there for another 10 years if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
I just had to laugh slightly because I realized what Tiger's Jaw song you put on this list.
Yeah, I saw water. Fucking it's still my favorite Tiger's Jewel song despite the meme with the Cardinal heart cover. I
Uh,
saw water.
um, but yes, I feel like this is you actually having us double down on this and really just become this joke title we've given ourselves as the forefront of the emo fifth wave stuff, you know, like we've
We are the
joked
yeah.
about it, but
pioneers, the premier fifth wave emo podcast.
yes,
We'll always now.
and now
Once
we're
fifth
like,
wave ends, we've got nowhere else to go.
well, if it's anything like half of these bands, we could just keep coasting and doing whatever the fuck we want. Like fucking
Yeah,
Good.
AMI's
like,
been around forever.
Yeah.
Weezer's
but
been around forever.
one thing we should probably actually start doing as well is talking about the album that we've actually brought up here, and that's the Hotelier's Home Like No Place Is There. And there is one thing that I kind of do notice that it stands out, and it's specifically in the fourth wave, and it's lyrical content.
Mm-hmm.
And the only other album in which I can think of from that time period which had the same lyrical content didn't really exist in the same wave, although you might be able to disagree with me on that, is Against Me's Transgender Dysphoria Blues.
Mm.
I don't know. Like I don't know if I necessarily read through everything. I guess I can, but I don't know if I saw the direct like trans or gender like comparison. Like
It's
there is a
you're
bit.
trapped in your body. But the
There
fuck do
like
you
there is
think
a
that?
bit definitely in a deep your deep rest, of course.
Yeah, your deep breaths. I mean, Life and Drag talks about it. I mean, we obviously know there's we saw the interviews that you posted as well. Where Kristen Holden's talking about talking about gender identity, even
Right.
if it's like some of them been a bit of an uncomfortable interview where it feels like they don't really want to talk about it because they don't really care.
Yeah, and then
Because
the
that's
interview is just really painstakingly going over every aspect possible.
I mean, if you actually watch some of the live performances around the time this album got out, it would be 50-50 for whether or not Kristen would be walking to the stage with jeans or fishnets.
That's totally fair.
Yeah,
Um,
it's great actually.
but I
There's
will note the
obviously
difference between transgender dysphoria blues, of course, being a very direct head-on approach.
yeah. Well, transgender dysphoria blues is mostly talking about Laura's personal
Yeah,
gender dysphoria,
yeah,
whilst this album kind of talks about other people's, or there is a bit of personal gender identity kind of stuff in here as well. I mean, there's also just a lot of kind of just personal shit that gets talked about in this album. It's not to say that other emo artists weren't doing it as well. Uh, there are a lot of moments on this record though that I actually do think stand out, even if they're not so musically creative or like unique. Creative's a hard word to be using now. I say unique's probably a better case.
sure.
I mean, I love the kind of last verse that happens in the opening track and introduction to the album. Before the kind of musical breakdown happens, the line, "The pills that you gave me didn't do anything. I just slept for weeks on end." Fuck.
Mhm.
If you watch the live performances of that as well, just you get a whole collective crowd just screaming out "fuck" at the same time, and it's actually just a little bit of goosebumps comes in because you just know the amount of people who just genuinely just wanted to sing that.
Right. Um.
So I'm gonna call out Tricks to say some stuff now.
I'm in the bathroom. Apologies.
Oh, hello.
I didn't know.
I really don't have much to say about this album. I only listened to it a few times, and the last time I listened to it was last night while I was making that mushroom po' boy I posted in the in the chat.
That looks delicious, by the way.
It really was. It's one of my favorite sandwiches.
You know what?
And
Go ahead.
if you're gonna say something about the sandwich, go ahead.
Just say I had taken a picture of a cake to use as the episode art, but that got deleted because I had to change phones. So
Ah,
I might use the po' boy instead.
use the po' boy. It was a
Yeah, use
delicious
that.
sandwich.
Honestly, I'm surprised Tricks didn't want to use that as a goddamn EP art at that point.
I'm too tied to the milk. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, the milk's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Anyway, please continue.
And I didn't really listen deep at this album. I just listened to it like after work a few times, and then like while I was cooking. And the only thing I really have to say about this album is that I feel like I've heard it better executed 100 times.
I don't disagree with you on that. I mean, it took me to really kind of understand why this album was loved. Quite a lot of listens. Um, like I liked Your Deep Rest of and an introduction to the album on
Mhm.
the first couple of listens. I thought this at least kind of stood out with some good riffs or some kind of like good moments on it. But it took me until I could actually properly just sit there and just kind of just listen to what he or they, whatever. I think they go by both pronouns actually.
Mhm.
Um, was saying for me to understand. Okay, now I kind of get why people like this. It's like I said, like I think yeah, you're right. This did get executed quite a lot better, but I mean, what's the most popular isn't always, or the what's the most loved isn't always like everyone's personal favorite.
Right.
Right.
And I'm at that point for myself where it's like similar to you. The three songs I like know and I'm interested in and can tell you about really easily are Introduction, Your Deep Rest, and Housebroken. But like,
In framing, I like, which kind of like there were kind of moments on here as well. Like it's kind of mostly when you kind of realize it. It talks about multiple friends, but it's kind of like explained in a way where it's just one person that they're kind of talking about. Like there's a line in physical pictures you remain, or in framing, it almost kind of seems like to be talking about the moment that their friend killed themselves.
mhm.
Almost it kind of get that that's coming in there. Uh, I know kind of like the ending track Dendron, which actually if I've pronounced that correctly or got the title where the actual line title of the album comes from seems to kind of be about like escapism as well. So it kind of seems also more like though it's kind of relating to some of the or the singers kind of trying to relate to the mental struggles that the kind of subject almost of this album I would almost say about it uh
Mhm.
was experiencing and stuff. And I think I think that's where it becomes like a whole like when you realize that it's kind of almost telling a story in some case of here or talking about a subject that makes it a bit more interesting. And
Mhm.
obviously we come into the context of it being 2022 and a lot more artists have come out and spoken about being transgender or gender identity and stuff in songs. I mean, we're all practically Homer's Ware his top fans at this point, and that whole record is practically about gender dysphoria.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, I became birds definitely yes.
Yeah, so it's like yeah, and I wouldn't even put Hotelier in Homer's Way in the same tier. I think there's so much difference in quality. Um, But as we can tell kind of from here, there are more people talking about this right now than there was back in 2014.
Yeah.
And I knew of the Against Me album back in 2014. I didn't listen to it for quite a while, obviously, but I knew about it in 2014. So it kind of stood out more that one was a bit more groundbreaking in its lyricism when it came out. And the Hotelier one kind of didn't because I didn't know about it in 2014.
Yeah, it was a
But
bit more
you
buried,
kind
but
of
that's
understand.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. I know there's obviously differences in this, but I know I'm making probably a pretty harsh generalization here, and I do apologize in that case. But the point that I'm trying to say is like there are topics that weren't really being talked about that much in especially in mainstream. I couldn't really tell you a mainstream song right now or something that's getting played on the radio at the moment that deals with these topics. I don't know exactly everything that's
Right.
getting played in it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's relatively low, if none.
And
Uh,
this was a pretty big album comparatively. It ranked a lot on year-end lists. It's
yep,
got pretty good reviews, and it's talking about this stuff, so it is notable in that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
I believe a lot of emo fans hated Fantano for giving it a 6, even though that's probably a score that I kind of like understand, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, in saying that, I don't. I can easily kind of start to see why a lot of artists do get influenced by this album, or even there's probably a good chance as well that a lot of artists probably felt a bit more accepted from this album.
Yeah. Like, there's a certain degree for me where it's like, if you were to ask me to give you an album that is a good example of what the layperson thinks emo is going to be like, it's probably going to be this album because it has, the whiny-ish voice. It has the lyrics that are about being sad and stuff, and there's really obvious metaphors like housebroken. It kind of checks a lot of boxes on the list. But it also does a
Yeah.
lot of that really well. So it's kind of a give and take.
Yeah, I will point out to the kind of your deep press as well. Like there's a line that kind of gets repeated a bit, which I think fully encapsulates every single part of what you just said. And it said, but I keep going, I need to set my spirit free. Um, in there, and then the ending line is, I watched you set your spirit free, which is just kind of like the first time it wasn't the first time I heard it, but the first time I actually heard the um the lines, I was like, oh, so they watched them kill themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What the fuck? And
Yeah.
that's actually something really fucking heavy to go through. I couldn't even imagine that because I don't want to imagine that. That's just scary.
Right.
But two,
Yeah.
it's kind of that's something really kind of that falls under this whole kind of there is some very heavy content in this album and the warning that they gave.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But I
And I
can't
think
help.
it's
Go ahead.
I'll just quickly say I think it is quite brave to kind of be that open on an album like this, and
Mm-hmm.
especially when this was also their breakout album.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, they had obviously some notability, but this was their breakout. They weren't already established, so to just kind of go that open already as well is quite a brave move to do as well.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure. Yep. The thing I wanted to say is that, talking about that stuff, the album I keep coming back to when you talk about, how bold it is and the things that comes in here that are heavy, it's like, I'm still thinking about that Law Dispute album, you know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I believe La Dispute handles some more darker topics and handles them better than this album
Yeah.
does, or at least talks about them. But it's also that La Dispute one isn't always as personal, so it's
Right.
kind of there's a difference
Mm.
if you get on what I mean in there. There's like stuff like King Park isn't a personal kind of a story to be telling about. It's affected someone else's family. Obviously, the way that they present it, it makes it feel like it's personal.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Edward Ben's 27 times. That one, somewhat, I guess there is a bit because I believe the story was that was someone he actually met that is
Mhm.
being talked about.
But I can imagine like something like that being a gateway for people to talk about things that are more general, broad personal experiences. not just like the cliche emo things that you hear about.
Mm-hmm.
I was considering putting that album on the list, but I'd say went with the on that little playlist I did. I went one from the first album. Or not the. I
Mm,
don't think it's the second. But such small hands, so that one's more encapsulates kind of what an emo sound is than I would say like a King Park does, because King Park just feels a lot more post-hardcore.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, I almost just completely burped into the mic there. Um,
Burp into the mic, Ritz.
I'll do it when it comes back. One thing I was actually talking with my brother there as well. We were kind of trying to discuss. I think it was at the Strikes while we were waiting between acts, and we are saying what's kind of like the more popular third wave emo acts, because even though like I'm more kind of like into the fifth and fourth wave, my brother actually surprisingly likes quite a lot of the third wave artists
Mm,
that came out,
Mm-hmm.
specifically like early Jimmy Eat World, which is it's Jimmy Eat World's not one that you really considered to be a part of that third wave, because obviously they had the big hit with the middle, so you'd think it's more in the mainstream one.
yeah,
But they're actually kind of one of the more important acts in third wave emo.
Mm.
interesting.
Interesting.
Mm. Well, apparently Clarity is just a big album for a lot of artists for that time. For like songs like For Me This Is Heaven, and they existed in the same space as bands like the Get Up Kids.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sure too, if we wanted to really dive deep, we could just easily go back to like the earlier stuff of like Sunny Day Real Estate and Captain Jazz and My Bloody Valentine, if we really want to start covering like the history and like the first couple waves too.
I have
Yeah.
I, I have like no knowledge practically of first wave, other than it's like it comes in the 80s and that's about it. Like late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And not much people probably have too much knowledge of that era, unless you know they were actually in that era.
Yeah, unless they
Like
were
I wouldn't
there.
like I was born during the third wave. Why am I supposed to know the first wave?
Mm-hmm.
But we do
How come emo has more waves than feminism?
because it comes around every decade because it can't keep itself together.
Oh man.
It's too emotionally unstable to stick around.
There's a joke to be made about feminism in that same sentence, about of similar ways.
Well, I hope though is that
Uh,
the fifth wave is the one to really stick it out though, because this feels like a
yeah.
really strong groundswell. A lot of things happening. A lot of bands trying to support each other and do the right thing. So
Well,
my hope.
the big thing you can notice about waves as well is that, especially with like you know, you have the second wave, which is kind of you have like the Captain Jazzes in there, or some other kind of accent, and then you have third wave, which I mean Sunny Day's kind of in the second wave as well, and then you have third wave, which is like American footballs, the Jimmy Eat Worlds and stuff, and fourth waves you have the Hotelier, you have the modern baseballs, uh, and I'm saying like the couple artists from each wave and stuff, and I'm not really talking about like the really popular ones or the popular pop punk in
Right.
um
Mm-hmm.
in third wave either, because that kind of pop punk kind of existed in the same space that third wave did. But if you talk about those waves and you grabbed if you grabbed one artist from it, uh, it's not that that artist would be every artist from that wave, but you would be able to pick up an artist that would have a pretty broad sound
Hmm.
of everything that was in that wave. Like American football, you could say is the third wave one with that album. I think that would kind of be fair. I think it'd be fair to say Sunny Day Real Estate's Diary for the second wave, and fourth wave, I reckon it's fair to say this album, because I think yeah, it was done. You could say it's done better. I would disagree with American football, by the way, but you could say that it's done better with other albums in that wave, but you'll still get a different sound. But right now, the only album in which I could say is the fifth wave album, and that's only just because I think it covers enough of what fifth wave is doing for it to be considered that is the Glass Beach album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I
But
I mean,
realistically, how much shit is fifth wave doing? Because it's doing much more than any other wave is.
well, yeah, fifth wave is much more of an even playing field because it allows for so much more. Like if Paranol is being counted and if
Yeah, well,
Stomach
you
Book
have
is being counted.
it's Paranol and Stomach Book. I would say are just as experimental as each other, but they're so completely different in their sound. I mean,
Yeah.
Paranol is practically turning it into this kind of slow. It's near the slowcore shoegazy type of emo that you kind of get it sometimes, but it's also kind of heavy and dance punk. And then Stomach Book is, as you said a bit ago, it's completely deconstructed. I recently listened to the "Hey I Love You" EP that they put out a
Mm,
bit ago. I've listened to the album this year, but I finally listened to the EP, and that sounds like if Anamanaguchi was emo.
fair enough. And
It's
and it,
insane just how much. I'll get to you in a second, Dominic. I'm just gonna
yeah,
finish this train of thought
yeah.
first. And but we also have artists that do sound like they're just continuing on from fourth wave. Harley Cosgrove I've been listening to recently off a recommendation. They sound kind of like a better Tiny Moving Parts at this point. Uh, you have Oolong, which kind of sounds like they're going from Tiger's Jaw. You even have other fourth wave acts, as we mentioned earlier, that's still putting stuff out in here. So we've gone broad. It's gone from continuing on to just completely changing it up, and I'm fucking for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's more of a willingness with this. Like, people are more consciously adopting emo as like a genre style, as like the way in which they want to express their musicality. You know, it's like some people are really drawn to it, some people like it and want to explore it. You know, I feel like that's a difference here, because on the one hand, it does introduce the whole Machine Gun Kelly adopting emo and making emo records now, and whether or not that's okay and blah 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 blah.
And
But
you
it
do
also,
wonder if we consider in the future that would be considered a part of fifth wave as well, because obviously at the
Ugh.
time we read differently, but you do wonder how we consider it in the future.
right. But it's like he's a
Yeah.
mainstream artist adopting it. What's what's so different than, another act that's more underground adopting it and consciously doing what they consider to be emo because they think it's interesting, they think it's cool.
Mm.
This isn't the era anymore where it's like, oh, I just do emo or I just do music and it happens to sound all sad and stuff. I'm just influenced by these things. Like, no, emo has a very defined idea and like subject matter and topics and styles and themes and vibes that you can just tap into now. You can just do it if you want to.
Yeah.
Can I just say that thank fuck Drake decided to put out a house album?
Heh.
No, there's still time.
There is still time.
I mean, he does like underage girls.
Oh shit. Fuck.
Fourth wave again. Hello.
Ugh.
That's just me ripping on Drake for fair enough reasons.
Yeah.
Yes. But
Here on this podcast, we do not support Drake.
no.
This is not a Drake safe space.
Fuck off Spotify. I don't want him on my playlist.
But I mean, like I feel like each wave is kind of built on the last one, and so that means that the fifth wave has become very, I think, postmodern and self-aware and self-referential, because it's like, in the same way that we talk about, oh, it's difficult to listen to brand new or something like that, or it's difficult to kind of support the fourth wave when all these abuse allegations have happened, yada yada yada. The fifth wave also feels that way, generally.
Mm-hmm.
And the
I
fifth
mean,
wave,
there was Dogleg. I think was the one that had some recent allegations, but I can't remember if that was against a specific member or not as well.
right? And there was the stuff with Foxtails as well that we could talk about again. But I feel like
Mhm.
there's a willingness to try to do better and to clean up the scene and make it more inviting. As we talked about, it's very queer coded. There's a lot of just LGBT people in the space now.
Yeah, I'm just putting
And
this message out to Brandon McDonald with how much that I've liked Home is Square. If you turn out to be an abuser, that's it for me for emo. I'm not coming back.
fair
Yeah.
enough.
You better stay clean. That's all I'm saying.
It shouldn't be difficult to do. It's just be a good person. I don't know. But
It's actually really easy to stay clean.
yes.
Mhm.
I don't know. Like, if AFI can survive all this time without anything bad happening, they switched to emo. They're a good example of a band that switched to
Yeah.
emo.
Yeah, I added one onto the playlist specifically from Sing the Sorrow because I know you would have hit me, and fair enough. So if I put one from the EPs because that's not emo.
Right.
That's
Their
some
90s stuff
straight.
is punk.
horror. It's horror punk, and it's great.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but
But
there.
yeah, I mean, Sing the Sorrow is kind of an emo. December Underground is kind of hard to define if I would consider like near gothic punk again or like gothic emo or something or whatever. But Sing the Sorrow is 100% emo.
Sure. And like that's a discussion to have about like, they were transitioning labels, they went from like the what was it, fucking Adelaide Records or something like that, to fucking DreamWorks. So they went,
Mm.
big main label time, and that's when they have, of course, their sound shift. So whether or not that was influenced by trying to get a better, more palatable sound or what, but different topic for another
Although
day.
one that I put on there, which has kind of transitioned away from emo, is Citizen. Their 2014 one I would consider it's a bit near post hardcore, but it's kind of mostly emo-y. When I hear lyrics like "I should have crashed the car when I the night I drove alone," I kind of like, yeah, that's emo. Uh, but their last record last year, which I actually really liked, kind of more broadened themselves into dance punk, surprisingly more than it actually was emo.
So, but are they shifting, or are they incorporating both?
It it nearly felt like a shift at times, to be honest. It feels like they're shifting, but
Because we
I
just
guess
talked
you're gonna
about
have to see.
Paranol being both, kind of.
Mhm.
Paranol talked like, yeah, it's a weird thing, and maybe Citizen just kind of are both, but also the difference is that's Paranol's debut as well, and
Second album, but yeah.
oh, second album. That's right. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Yeah, thinking on that, but still, like it's someone that's already kind of been established as, or an artist that's already kind of been established as emo, starting to kind of change their sound in a way
Right.
that's getting less emo.
Mhm.
And I guess that's the thing that's cool about Fifth Wave, or a lot of Fifth Wave bands, is that they seem to just kind of do whatever, and it's all kind of in the same space. Like Home is Where is kind of doing a sound shift right now, which, as we talked about, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
But they're still going. I guess it's still, you can still draw a linear line. It's all still emo, even if it is changing. But I do
As
like
I was
the
talking about as well. Actually, I'll let you finish. Sorry,
No,
I
I
was
say
just
I
gonna
do
mention.
like the willingness to kind of just, okay, we are this. We also want to try other things. I do like that a lot. Like I I'm always upset, or not upset. It's a strong word, but I don't like it when bands feel pigeonholed and like, well, we gotta change our sound. We gotta do this. We gotta do it. It's the Green Day thing of, well, we gotta be what Green Day is, and it's like, well, no, you don't. You really don't. You can do whatever the
Yeah.
fuck you want. And that's when you
Yeah.
go and hear Money Money 2020 Part 2, and it's like, oh no, they know how to make good music still, but they're just stuck in being Green Day. So they want to make whatever the fuck they think Green Day is anymore.
Mm.
Yeah.
No matter
There's-
how many times we try to run away, Green Day will always be a constant, permanent bookmark on this
It's
podcast.
it's a cornerstone of this podcast, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as we started doing minisodes more frequently, that's become our topic.
I just want to
Yeah.
say you're more likely to Stockholm Syndrome me into liking Shaky Graves than Dominic is into me liking Green Day.
No, I'd rather you like Shaky Graves more than Green Day. There's more to talk about with Shaky Graves.
Oh, there is a lot more to talk about with Shaky Graves.
Yeah, why do you think I said that?
Like the Green
But
Day is just for me and Tricks to Commissary, more or less.
Yeah.
as I was gonna mention earlier, kind of as well, as like it going into like everything changing their sound or this, or like the kind of paths that everyone is going. Yeah, you could look at that meme that I probably sent a long time ago that Homer's Ware posted on their Twitter, which is that kind of aux chord meme, and there is, it's kind of incredible that it's like a great way to say that it's almost like these different subgenres almost of fifth wave that's coming in here, like
Yeah,
on the left side was this really more experimental side, and then on the far right was like the kind of just basic fourth wave on it kind of thing.
right. Or
Mhm.
like you have the Expanse that is like the very clean, polished, almost pop punky Origami Angel versus the very like DIY screamo ass screamo. Your arms are my cocoon. To again,
Yeah, that
stomach boat
one we didn't really talk
deconstruction.
about. I haven't really talked about Your Arms Are My Cocoon today yet, which I'm kind of surprised. But that one, it says It's actually amazing though how much that one stands out to all the other stuff that I've listened to just because of its production value.
Yeah. I mean,
But it
it's very
actually,
basic. It's very lo-fi, but yeah.
the Hey I Love You almost like has some very similar kind of like drum beats. So I know it almost sounded like garage band happening on the Hey I Love You as well. I know that it is garage band on Your Arms Are My Cocoon. So
Hmm.
there are like some similarities in some of the production that some of these artists are doing, and some of them I think it just works better in some, but
Well, it goes back to the
that's
accessibility thing of like if you can just start doing it on your phone, like it's more important at that stage to just do it and to worry about like, oh, how well am I recording all of this? How clear is everything? I feel like when you're starting out, just getting your ideas out there is the important thing.
Yeah.
the tricks that better be what your EP sounds like.
My EP is gonna sound rough, and it's just gonna be me singing with my ukulele.
Okay.
That's 100%. That's six wave emo right there.
Inventing sixth wave emo.
If it's sad songs, then absolutely.
It is sad songs.
Sad ukulele times. Love it.
Ima-
Um,
imagine, imagine singing a song about wanting to kill yourself while playing a ukulele. Like no one would be able to take you seriously.
Fuck, I actually do have a song kind of like that.
But there you go.
now the challenge is to
Six wave
spin it.
emo.
The challenge is to spin it in a way that makes it convincing.
Yeah. I think I did. I think I have it fairly convincing.
Actually, will it be six wave emo or will ukulele emo just be a new subgenre?
I don't know. The song about killing myself is about my nicotine addiction and how smoking cigarettes is slowly killing me, and it's like the coward's way of suicide.
That's just an Oliver Tree song.
Sort of. Uh,
So like we talked about like, are there different genres or subgenres? Can we really like say that yet, or is it all just a miasma still?
I feel
Um,
like it's all still a miasma.
I just wouldn't. It's hard to put. I guess you're all right, but I wouldn't like to put Camp Trash and Lobster Fight in the same genre. You know, when they sound just completely different. And then and then I was kind of like, what genre do you give like a Lobster Fight? Like I can say with Camp Trash, that sounds more closer to just the punk side, but then a Lobster Fight, what the fuck is that? That sounds. I mean, again, it kind of all comes back to the Glass Beach album, which what if you were to give that just one genre, what would it be? And you might just even have to say, yeah, that's just fifth wave emo.
Yeah, I mean, because the Glass Beach, just kind of like the Stomach Book thing, is the Glass Beach album is very focused on like deconstruction of genre and trying different genres on like hats.
Yeah.
And it's gotta be my claim when fifth wave has ended. And I don't think it's gonna be my favorite or in my even in my top 10 of it. But when fifth wave has ended and everyone goes, what was the premier fifth wave album? Glass Beach will be one of the considerations.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I mean, you say unfortunately, and it doesn't have to even be in a case of liking it, but just think about it, and especially remember
no,
that
I
that
mean,
came out. It came out like
yes, early.
mid 2019 or earlier, and just how much can you think that even with the new shit from experiment and the
Like
experimentation that was
if you're trying to draw the map, that's kind of the one of the things you
yeah
use as like as a guiding star. And I mean, no disrespect to
Mhm.
the Glass Beach crew. I just
yeah no
of the stuff we've listened to, that's the one of the ones that has like, I think disappointed me the most.
there's I'm not the I don't think it's a 10. I don't even think it's a 9. I think it's like a very comfortable 7 for me if I was to give it a rating. But I think it's got some really crazily like unique songs in there, and I think there's a lot of uh there's a lot of kind of hype around that Glass Beach album that maybe not the same that the Hotelier got, so maybe we'll get a big one. Who knows? Maybe even people will say it's Origami Angel. They obviously got quite a bit of
Mhm.
following from Somewhere City.
Yeah, I mean they're like they're among the more the cleaner side of things too, which is
Yeah.
always fun to think about. Like if I see a band that spins off eventually to be like the Jimmy World, where I I, I barely even remember they're part of third wave emo. They're just kind of like a rock band to me at a certain point, right?
Yeah.
Like I think Origami Angel has that potential to eventually just kind of be like, oh yeah, they're a rock band. Oh, but yeah, they do have the emo stuff too.
But I do think the Glass Beach album is a lot more accessible than a lot of these other albums that we've actually been covering. And
I mean,
that's saying because the Glass Beach album isn't the most accessible album out there.
yeah, I guess I don't know. I feel like you have to really train somebody who's not used to it to really just listen to classic classic J dies and goes to hell. Like
Mhm.
the genre shifts in that, the beat shifts. That's going to knock people on their ass if they're not used to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But when I did say that comment that it'll be the premiere one, you didn't really disagree though in the end. You kind of just said unfortunately because you do think there's better, and I do think there's better too. I mean, if I had the
Mhm.
choice of what should be considered, I would probably put Stomach Book over that. To be honest, I think
Oh
Stomach Book
yeah,
has a much better deconstructing of emo. Just when we talk about an album in full, I think I still prefer Glass Beat songs
Mhm.
when it comes to an album, but when it comes to an album in full, I would probably say Stomach Book.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the Stomach Book one is definitely nowhere near as popular. I think Animals is finally starting to get a little traction, but little traction isn't traction.
And there's other actually there is one big one you're missing here is Weather Day.
Weather Day could also potentially be one. I do think yes, that is a I'm not saying Glass Beach will 100% be it. That would be the one album, but I think it'll be in the consideration. And I think I haven't listened to enough Weather Day to fully confirm you, but I would say that yes, that is a good consideration. Just knowing the hype from that album as well.
Right, and what we have
Mhm.
listened to of them on the show, the Radar Ballet, that was a huge
Yeah,
highlight.
that was a fantastic song. That was in one of my I think I put that as number 76 or something of my top 100 last year.
Yeah,
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I was a fan of Radar, but I don't get me wrong on that.
hell yeah. So I mean,
Hell
if
yeah.
you're looking at your list, that should be like the 70th thing on here at some point. It's like you got to have the Weather
Yeah.
Day.
I haven't put fully everything on there. Like I was also mentioning off stream as well. Does Malsaturi also count as fifth wave? Because we see some artists are saying some playlists, some artists, Homer's Where when they finally say that Malsaturi is fifth wave, then I will say Malsaturi is fifth wave. But until my guidance counselors do that, I'm not quite convinced. However, some people are convinced, so maybe I accidentally just brought up more fifth wave when I covered them.
Maybe.
I'm curious about something. Hold on, I'm gonna check something in Mausatui.
Okay.
What was their first album called again? Fill the bathtub, turn off the lights.
Yep. Great closing track on that, by the way. Happy birthday. I played it on every birthday that I have, especially the one where I had COVID.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
that is a 2017 album. That's like a mid 2017 album too.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So that'll be interesting if Matsutui gets absorbed in the fifth wave. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of like fits into things, or that becomes like a weird progenitor of sorts.
I mean, it's kind of like a whole. They're definitely, if they were emo, they're not considered fourth wave, and
Right.
it'd be definitely also kind of weird to see. Obviously, Bigger Boot is currently the one that got some notice, and that's a Melbourne-based artist. But as well, Nam, I think they prefer to be called it due to the to that being the original Aboriginal name, which is fair enough. Uh, so it would be interesting to see Australian artists actually kind of join in on this wave, seeming as obviously Weather Day is Swedish, so
Yeah.
it's not like artists out of America haven't gotten popularity before, but the waves of emo is mostly seen as a United States thing.
Yeah, I mean, Paranol's on here. We could make the argument that
Yeah.
Precocious Neophyte could probably be on here now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably make that argument as well, assuming it says very similar sounds. However, I feel like that one was slightly less emo and just more shoegaze. But I mean, those are arguments that people can fight to the death about.
Sure.
But
I,
it definitely would be kind of probably even big to see artists from even if it's just from Melbourne slash Nam, uh kind of break off into the fifth wave emo because that could
yes.
kind of create a bit of a resurgence here, and I would definitely be down for that. That would mean if we get a resurgence here and we get popularity here, hey, maybe some of those artists will come down here and tour, and I can finally fucking see them.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Grief Eater goes to Australia. Make it happen.
Yeah, I'll just put the sticker on there on Oxford Art Factory when they play. Oh, actually, it'd have to be at a smaller venue. Don't play the Lansdowne.
I do think it's interesting that you put Def Cab on this list.
Def Cab is definitely considered in that third wave. I don't think there's been much arguments about that. Same with Bright Eyes. They're definitely.
And yeah, that's the
Uh,
interesting thing though. Is like for me, like I feel like a lot of that stuff's so removed now that it becomes just part of like the music landscape, like the mainstream crossover stuff. You know, really pushes it in a
Hmm.
different direction.
well, I mean, the third wave had a bit of mainstream popularity, and maybe it helps that the pop punk was also blowing up there as well. When you had
I
obviously
suppose.
quite a lot of popular stuff, not just the My Chemical Romance. I mean, it's no one says Avril Lavigne and thinks that wasn't just listened to what they probably would have called emo teenage girls, and
Speaking
that was
of,
pretty.
speaking
Yeah,
of, you know, if you want to go through like what I like, I think it's interesting to talk about like what our experiences are and like kind of like coming up in like basically what was like third and fourth wave because that's what we were alive for
Hmm.
pretty much.
hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
upsetting to me that like the one album that I will have seared in my memory forever, just visually, we will never cover
Which one is
the
which
God
one
and
is that
Devil
exactly?
raging inside me.
Got it.
Hmm.
The devil and God are raging inside me.
Yeah, that fucking cover art was everywhere when I was younger.
And look, we can talk a bit about it now because this is probably the episode to be doing on it.
I've never
And
heard it. I've never heard it. I've never listened to Brand
yeah,
New. But that
Hmm.
when I was on Tumblr in high school, everyone had that fucking cover art on their posts. They were sharing songs. They were just having it as like a aesthetic.
yeah. I mean, a big thing about that album as well was that is that the songs were also used in video games. Archer's Bowels Have Been Broken was in Burnout Paradise. Sowing Season, yeah, was in Guitar Hero 5, which is uh, unashamedly how I discovered the band. Uh, but Devil and God, like that's one of those things that when you grow up listening to emo, is everyone will always say he was a fucking album that I blasted during high school.
Yes.
Because what is the
Yeah.
oldest you got a favorite emo album? It's during goddamn high school, and that was me with Brand New. Full on just like every almost every day I walked home from school, uh, would have that album on. It's just it was just easy to put on. You're just walking, you're listening to it. You make sure no one's around, and you just go before you put my body in the cold ground, and then you see someone just like that walk up for you, and they're just going like, "Are you fucking singing along?" I'm just like, "Nah, nah, nah, no, that's gay. I'm not gay. I'm totally not." And then you just walk off, and you just go, "Oh fucking gay," and that's your high school experience. And the Devil and God would have been that for a lot of people. I mean, I will talk about it just as an actual album here, and it's still even with all that shit against Brand New. When I separate the art from the artist, which I know that's always a cringe kind of thing to do, especially when some of the stuff on that album is Jesse Lacey talking about if he's a bad dude and kind of waiting for Jesus to come, have his second coming, so Jesus can tell him that he's evil. When all he needed to do was realize is that he took pictures of girls underage to find out that he was evil.
Hmm.
Uh, but in saying that, the album isn't just a whole "I hate myself" record, which is pretty weird for emo in there. It actually had some storytelling on it. I mean, Limousine is this whole 7-minute track talking about this drunk driver who killed a flower girl at a wedding.
Hmm.
And it's a really fucking dark topic to go on. Archer's bowels have been broken. Talks about the dangers of losing people in your faith by constantly pushing them. So it's this kind of like warning sign that says, hey, if you're constantly trying to force a person's religion on someone that you love, you're only just going to push that person away instead of actually spreading the faith.
Hmm.
And we already talked a bit about Jesus Christ, and that's just about like it's kind of like sad, feel sorry for me kind of song on there, but you get that. But also instrumentally wise, it's completely still fucking unique when it comes to the emo. It was kind of very slow and kind of somber and stuff, but it didn't feel very kind of like uh it didn't feel like folky. It didn't feel like anything that was sounding mainstream. I guess it kind of just felt a bit more legitimate, if you get what I mean. Especially
Yeah.
for the fucking time period that it came out in. So it's no surprise that especially on fucking Tumblr where you get a bunch of teenagers who always like to dye their hair fancy colors and go raw XD. That means I love you and dinosaur. Uh, that
And
they
then
would
they
be in
go
love
off
with that.
taking photos in the autumn.
Mm,
And they're like, "Oh, look, I'm a photographer too. Look at this.
mm.
Let
And then
me
only 5 of them actually ended up being a photographer.
yeah." It was definitely a vibe, like a time like the other album art. I guess that has a similar vibe to this as Crystal Castles too, but
Mm.
Hmm.
um,
I
it's
mean,
just
maybe one day I'll go up and say let's cover all the brand new albums because genuinely, when I grew up, they were one of my favorite bands. They're
I mean
just
like
they
yeah.
never toured Australia, so I never got to see them live, and that was just kind of like me going like, hopefully one day they will. And now it's weird. I'm just going like, don't you ever dare fucking come here.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like there's so much that's like just like a landmine at this point to really talk about when covering like this stuff, right? Like
Hmm.
if we really want to be thorough, we can either do that or we can either like just not support the artists that are clearly so fucking awful and like predatory. And it's like how thorough do we really want to be?
Hmm.
Like my complete wish in a vacuum would be to just go for it, but there's a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
Now, there's one thing as well that just kind of needs to be said before any wrap up of emo can happen on this episode, and that's the talking about real emo. Real emo only consists of the DC emotional hardcore scene and the late 90s screamo scene. What is known by Midwest emo is nothing but alternative rock with questionable real emo influence. When people try to argue that bands like My Chemical Romance are not real emo, while saying that Sunny Day Real Estate is, I can't help not to cringe because they are just as fake emo as My Chemical Romance, plus the pretentiousness. Real emo sounds energetic, powerful, and somewhat hateful. Fake emo is weak, self pity, and a failed attempt to direct energy and emotion into music. Some examples of real emo are PG99, Rites of Spring, Captain Jazz, the only real emo band from the Render scene, by the way, and Lomo Preta. Some examples of fake emo are American Football, My Chemical Romance, and Mineral. Emo belongs to hardcore, not to indie, pop punk, alt rock, or any other mainstream genre.
Yeah.
They just gave me cancer.
Welcome to the I don't know if Dominic's ever heard that one before.
I
That
have
is the
heard that one
classic.
before.
That's the greatest copy pasta in any music scene.
It's the listen
Yeah.
here, you little shit of music.
Yep. And I remember when Brandon McDonald was on the Fantano interview when I did the live stream and everyone was just spamming that copy pasta. Fucking
That's
Yeah,
great.
incredible.
I mean, if you want to talk about bands that are in the DC hardcore scene, Origami Angels, right there, baby.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the Hotelier album.
Yeah.
Hotelier, discussion of emo overall. Unsurprisingly, it's not always the most fun subject to talk about, despite our interest in the genre.
Yeah.
I think it's something that's at least getting better. It seems you will always have allegations, but to be fair, it's currently just as much as almost any other genre, which is not that great to be honest. But yeah, I mean, you can talk about non-emo artists as well. Some of them a bit darker. I mean, Daughters had the whole Lingria Ignota finally coming forward about her story, and I haven't been able to listen to Daughters since. Um, Mark was it Mark Kozilek was his name? I think it was. Yep, Mark Kozilek from Sun Kill Moon, who turned out to be unsurprisingly a bit of a dick towards women. And
Yeah.
these artists that we don't consider emo and stuff. So it's emo definitely did have a bit of a more kind of like label of being a bit more full of abusers, but I feel like it's yeah, as we were talking about earlier, it is starting to clean up, and we're realistically not getting too much more than some of the other scenes are getting. Which the answer should really just be that there's no abusers anywhere, but unfortunately, that's not the world we live in.
Right.
Yeah.
We just got to hold the people who are occupying these spaces now. We got to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, that's practically a great wrap up of emo and areas the podcast. Has anyone else got anything else to say, or we ready to
It's
just ride this rave for 3 more years?
it's the anniversary.
This was an interesting anniversary episode.
We didn't even talk about anything as far as the show goes. I guess we did that a couple weeks ago, so that's fine.
I mean, we're definitely talking about some emo artists that we've covered on here. I mean, it's not like we haven't. I don't know. Is Adult Mum put out their album yet? Still waiting on that.
I don't think so.
Man, 91 is such a good single though.
Well, there's new Adult Mom stuff.
Yeah, there's a new single that came out this year, 91. It's generally like one of my favorite Adult Mum songs at this point.
Didn't
I
even know.
actually haven't listened to that yet, and I didn't know either. And Driver was like one of my favorite albums of last year.
It sounds it could actually just even be an offcut of Driver, to be honest.
Fair.
Fair
It was
enough.
I think it was released on a different label though, which is the interesting thing. I don't know. Driver wasn't released on Epitaph, was it?
Yes, it was.
It was.
Okay. It was. Never mind then. It's on the same label.
We're waiting on Lorenzo, of course, to release a new album.
Yeah, he's teased some things, it looks like, judging by his Twitter.
Yeah. And then, of
What
course,
else?
Ritz, you just released an album.
I not an album compilation. That's all the final recordings from the Death Starving Fun era, including that little
Yeah.
15 cover of Long Distance Conjoined Twins, which is such a shit post, but not as much of a shit post as me doing a Death Timing Fun version of Meet Me One Day at the end of the podcast.
That is a album we will have to cover at some point this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, Trix has already been Stockholm Syndrome because she just wants to hate me more.
And
You just listen to it and it's just like, learn some music theory, and I'm just like, no.
It's not, less of learn some music theory, and it's more like
Just step away from the desk.
I don't even know how to phrase it without sounding too abrasive.
No, I think the answer is that you just hate it, but you don't know how to tell me that you hate it in a way that I'll truly understand why you hate it.
Yeah. That feels about right.
I'm good at doing things like that. What else is coming up this year? Whilst we're just wrapping up this episode.
I have an EP coming out soon.
Yeah, you've got
Ooh.
an EP.
We'll have to cover that as well.
I'll be sure to remix it.
Oh man.
Think about other artists. I mean, I know there's definitely some artists we haven't covered that I'm a bit more hyped on. I know Alex G's album is coming out later. I think it's September or something. God Save the Animals, I think it might be called. That one I'm hyped for. There's even the last single, which I wasn't too keen on, sounded interesting enough that I think it's going to be a pretty great album. Obviously, we'll see. We'll see when it comes out though. Before I lock anything in on that.
There is a we have entirely missed that the whole Beach Bunny album just came out.
Oh
I
shit! Yeah,
I
we did.
I did not miss that the Beach Bunny album came out because I've already bought that off Bandcamp. I've been listening to it a little bit. I can give some early thoughts on that one. I think it's more consistent than Honeymoon was.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't think it has a song as strong as Promises though.
But it does have
It does have Oxygen,
yes,
which I know you are a big fan of Oxygen, so
it's a
you will
very good
probably
song.
think it has a song as strong as Promises. This is just my personal opinion though.
There.
Fair enough.
I probably got some more stuff that is in my kind of like constant playlist and stuff that I'm
When is
looking
Pete
for.
putting
Oh,
out his EP?
we can wait for Pete to start recording proper music. Stella Donnelly actually might be an artist that I'll probably finally cover on here.
Again,
She's got an
after the
album.
Wiggles album?
Yeah, that's right. She was on there, but yeah, that might be one because she's announced her album that's coming out this year.
Mm-hmm.
And her last one I probably should have covered because even though it wasn't in my favorite albums of the year, I still thought was actually a good album. God, surely there's gonna be some other stuff. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Usually, I got the Spotify playlist next to me with all the singles and stuff that have come out. We still don't have full details if Sly Withers has got more stuff coming out, but and they did release a single this year. Same with Genesis of Risu. He put out one quite recently, so we might get some more stuff from them.
Supposedly we might get more Tones and I.
All right.
Yeah, there's a Macklemore collaboration that's already out.
Yeah, apparently it's not bad.
Yeah, which is a glowing review for both of them.
Yeah.
God, I'm trying to think what else. Surely it's gonna be more shit on here. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I mean, we still don't know if Stomach Book is just putting out singles for the sake of singles, or if Stomach Book's actually got a new album on the way. We're just gonna have to kind of wait on that one.
Yeah.
Is there anything else at the top of my head? No, but I'm currently kind of at
I feel like
loss here.
I feel like a lot of artists have released stuff that we've been looking forward to that we know of.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So now it's just a matter of like picking up the pieces, figuring all that out. If we want to cover what we want to cover, what we don't.
Mm-hmm.
I guess sure we'll find new stuff, of course, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always on the hunt. That's always been the good thing about modding the music Discord I'm on, is that there's always a bunch of people who will make sure that I listen to something because they need validation, which is fair because I will send them the same shit because I need that same validation.
that's why you have a whole podcast. That's
Yeah. That's why we created the podcast.
why you gotta
Yeah.
tell them to get on your level. You want this kind of acceptance? Make your own fucking podcast.
I feel like September is usually like the month where all the albums come out anyway. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
or
that'll
like
like start.
September or November is also another big one for it. It's like usually those 2 months.
Yeah.
So I reckon we're gonna have like this large influx at the end of the year of all the shit we want to cover, and we won't have the time to.
Yeah, that's usually how it happens anyways.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then once we're done with our next couple of episodes, I'm just gonna be trying to do 2022 as much as I can because I know there's still a lot on my list I want to cover. We'll probably cover that Carly Cosgrove one that I was talking about for a quick mention, which was that Midwest emo that sounded kind of like Tiny Moving Parts, and all their song titles and album titles are just Drake and Josh references.
It's fun. Yeah, there's still a lot of stuff I'd like to cover. I did my 2022 run earlier in the year, so I feel like I can like just kind of relax a little bit on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure we'll 100% be covering that Beach Bunny as well.
Someone's gonna take it.
Yeah.
If not Tricks, then probably me.
One of my next 2022 picks is probably going to be the new Horse Jumper of Love album.
Oh, that's out. Horse Jumper of
Yeah.
Love is one of those artists I still can't remember a song, but every time I listen to it, I go, okay, this is actually better than the last time I remember listening to this.
Worth
I had a depressive episode when I discovered that album, and it has their first album, and it has stuck with me.
Yeah, fair enough. We still got that episode art where you just drew a shitty picture of me, and it's me.
Yep.
Fake diary entry of me wanting to fuck Jeff Mangum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's classic. I love that.
Yeah.
We need to still make that a shirt.
Yeah. I need to get onto designing T-shirts.
Yeah. Imagine just wearing that out in public and then like no one gets it. No one gets it. You're just like, hey, look at this cool meme I made. It's just like, oh, what the fuck is it?
What the fuck, my dude?
I love it. It's like it's perfect for like wearing around in the fall or winter beneath like a sweater, and then you take off the sweater, and it's like what?
Yeah.
Oh, nice horse jumper of love. Oh wait, what the fuck is that?
Is that the horse jumper of
Also
love cover? Oh no, it's not. What the fuck?
just want to give shout outs to everything that's happened over the past 3 years. I know I've definitely did a shout out at it when it happened, but shout out to those fuckers at the JPEG concert that brought their 3DSs. Made some great entertainment between both artists.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing Pokemon like crazy, I'll tell you.
That is. I'm sorry. That is just such a boomer phrase.
What?
They're playing Pokemon like crazy.
Yeah,
No.
just playing Pokemon like
Yeah.
crazy. I don't know why. It just comes off as like such a boomer
It's great
phrase.
though. You just have the whole crowd just celebrating every goddamn button press that they do.
It's time to Pokemon go to the concert.
I was waiting for somebody to make that joke.
Yeah.
Be sure to take some good JPEGs.
I just want to point out that Pokemon Go to the polls is still one of the dumbest political campaigns that's ever happened.
Oh, we know.
Yes.
Yeah. The best part about it is that that's not even the reason Hillary tanked.
No.
No, it's not.
It was just it's just this shit that exists in its own space.
One of my favorite tweets is still the happy birthday to this future president.
Yeah, I think that one was probably actually a tank.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
from
unaware
what
of
I
this
remember
one.
in 2016. Yeah, she posted a picture of her as a child and said happy birthday to this future president on her own
Find it.
birthday. And I remember, just as an Australian, we knew one of the big reasons people didn't like Hillary is that she was so full of herself. And
Look,
that
guys,
was one of
here's how
that was
Hillary
one of
can still win.
yeah. That was a classic.
It's also uncanny how much how much she looks like herself as a kid, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pulling up the tweet right now.
I still remember the time she went into that New York apartment and saw the plants in the kitchen growing in the drain, and she just had that wide-eyed look.
Well, me and my brother and my dad, we were out today and we were looking at just a classic moments that happened in Australian politics, and it was in Parliament, and a person from the Liberal Party was having a go at this Labour Party in an actual on the floor, and they had the microphone and everything, and as they were told to walk away, which they did, he went to the other member in Parliament and just said, "You're such a cunt," and it got picked up on a microphone.
Good. I love
And
that.
then just the member, like the actual like judge person in the house, just said, "You are to refer to them by name."
Oh, that's great.
It was such a fucking classic moment. But it wasn't just like he yelled angrily, like "You're such a cunt." He just went, "Haha, you're such a cunt."
Meanwhile, in the U.S., we have government candidates tweeting out stuff like, "We know that 1 + 1 = 12 in this country, and we don't want it to change."
Yeah, that was 1 + 2 = 12, I believe.
Yeah, 1 + 2 = 12. My bad.
No, 1 + 1
Laverne
= 11,
Spicer.
clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is year 2 maths tricks. Come on.
My bad. It's still early.
2 plus 2 is 4 minus 1. That's 3. Quick maths.
You didn't even do it close enough with the English accent.
I
Plus
couldn't. I
2
didn't even
4
want to try.
minus 1, that's 3 quick maps. Everyday men on the block.
Smoke
Classic.
trees.
Fair
Man
enough.
got played so much by my friends in uni.
Trix, do you know
The
what we're
grind.
referencing?
I do know what you're referencing.
Okay, good. 'Cause I was almost looking for an excuse to pull out the video, but there's no point if you know.
My favorite part about Man's Not Hot was the amount of people who didn't realize that it was a shit take.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite
Like, there
part
was
was
so much people would just not listen to grime and realize it's like that's actually just fucking grime.
yeah. My favorite part is when I found out about it because someone put it to humble. It fits so well.
That's incredible.
Fuck what trying to remember all the other classic moments in of batshit moments in Australian politics. I probably talked about it, but during our election we had the Kim Jong Un impersonator come up to Gladys Liu's electorate, who's an Asian woman representative who has ties to CCP. This is like this isn't some like conspiracy shit. This is like actual like proven ties. Uh, so he dressed up as Kim Jong Un during one of her press conferences and just yelled out, "This is the woman for this electorate."
Hmm.
I love some classic racism and like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is an actual like protest though, because like yeah, she was actually a corrupt member that thankfully got voted out.
That's good.
And never forget when Tony Abbott decided to just eat a raw onion. Just to prove a point that we've all forgot what the point was, but he just took a bite out of that onion.
I'm gonna be honest. I do that for fun sometimes.
I mean, it sounds crunchy.
To be honest, that's the most human thing Tony Abbott did. Ah, man, we've had a great time of politics over the past 10 years.
Yeah,
The whole world has.
yeah.
I got my one last edgy joke for the evening, so I just want to put out the warning here that this one's an absolute classic. Is that I think politicians and fourth wave emo musicians would get along quite well, and I probably don't even need to finish that joke.
Minecraft YouTubers and pop punk frontmen.
Yeah.
Who's the Minecraft YouTuber who's also now a band leader?
Oh, that was with a suit.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Got
love.
my
Yes.
eye on you.
Yeah,
Don't
I
let us
haven't listened
down.
to any. I haven't listened to any Lovejoy outside of the privately owned Spiral Galaxy cover, and yet I still like that cover quite a lot.
One song came on my radio and it was pretty good.
And you remember how when I first mentioned the Trixie wrote that was a really embarrassing thing for me to admit? How do you feel
Yeah.
now? How do you feel now?
I feel less embarrassed since I wasn't the first one to admit it.
Admit what?
Fuck me.
Enjoying Wilbur's sit.
Oh. When Pete comes out with an EP, are people going to be like, oh, that's cringe? Can I enjoy it? No, they're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Joji. I also like back when he was Filthy Frank. Although
I
the
have watched
thing about
approximately zero Filthy Frank, if I'm to be honest.
Filthy Frank was a classic for just absolutely edgy and stupid humor.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I always remember that my uni friends they were just the true hipsters, and they it was back when Joji released music under like a SoundCloud name of Chloe Burbank or something. It was like the EP or something that he put out on there, and that was and that was when I first knew that he was putting out music. So like it's kind of weird that Joji is seen as like a YouTuber that went to a musician, but it's
Mhm.
actually a musician that went to YouTuber then went back to music.
Yeah.
Once you get to YouTube, you can never leave.
You'll always be a
Very cool.
YouTuber.
I'll never forget. Filthy Franks is seen like they were the channel that created the Harlem Shake meme, not the actual
Yes.
video song, but the actual meme.
Yes.
I'll take your word for it.
I've got a yeah. I've ran out of I ran out of stuff to talk about on here. Do we want to
Yeah,
you
let's
want to
wrap
say
it up.
happy 3 years?
Yeah, let's
Happy,
wrap this up because I got to get back to bed.
happy
Yeah.
3 anniversary.
Yeah.
Happy PS3.
PlayStation 3? Oh boy.
Oh no.
Play PS3, baby. Um, 3 years. Wow. And when we started, we thought we would quit after 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Just joking, but it's a pleasure to be here, and I can't do the shitty fucking best man speech.
Well, let's just hope for another 3 more that are just as good as these.
Yeah.
We can probably actually improve the quality just a little bit, don't you think?
Yeah,
Oh,
we probably could
we
do
can
that.
we can always
Yeah.
do that.
I mean, the ceiling's actually pretty high comparing to where we are.
Yeah.
Chick's just there with the most disappointed year of the whole night. Yeah,
Well,
it was
I'm doing
shit.
my best editing these episodes.
So yeah, was shit is also going to be the first song of Trix's EP.
Perhaps.
Have you titled the songs yet?
Yes, I have
Damn it.
3 songs like half written and half recorded, and one of them is a cover.
If there's one that needs a title, let me know and I will title it for you right here, right now.
Shoot me 3 titles.
All right, and what's the vibe that you're going for?
Sad ukulele.
I sat on the beach and cried until night fell. Or fell. That'll be my first one. What would be a second run? Uh, I looked down on the cliff just to look below and then realized I was only 5 feet up.
All right.
What would be a last one here? So it's sad ukulele songs. You're gonna need to. Oh, easy. This song is about a girl, but I don't want you to know that.
All right.
Please fall asleep so I can take pictures of you and hang them for my ukulele.
Yeah, that would be the album title.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's gonna do it for Dissonant Waves, our 3rd anniversary show. This minisode, the 25th
Well, there's
minisode.
one thing. There is one thing we have to do that we haven't done yet.
What?
Tricks. Favorites, least favorites.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Blender.
Favorites for
Dominic,
me:
favorite.
Introduction, Housebroken, You're Depressed.
Favorites for me, introduction to the album, You're Depressed, Dendron as well, in framing. Least favorite, it's the one. It might actually like, even though the lyrical content's not too bad, it might actually be Life and Drag. I might say that one just because it's a little bit different to the album, and I don't think it works as well as all the other stuff does. Um,
No least favorites for me.
yeah, it's not real. There's no song I hate off it though. I think at the very worst, it's still fine.
Fair enough.
And
And
rankings are number 3, number 2, number 1 this week are all the Hotelier.
yeah. And just to recap, next week we are listening to The Deer Hunter, the entire Color Spectrum saga. The black, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and white EPs, the album itself, Talking Heads Remain in Light, and the Stop Making Sense concert film, Marietta's Summer Death. I'm going to do the original and the anniversary edition because I want to hear the differences. And also,
It's all samples, so I can tell
I
you
know.
right now.
I'm just curious. I want to know. I want to do a comparison. I want to
Yep.
do that extra work and make this 8 hours of listening.
And because I
also,
feel like I need to get some more words in here, the last album that we're doing is Awake But Still in Bed. What people call low self-esteem is really just seeing yourself the way that other people see you.
thank you for covering that.
Yeah.
I was guaranteed going to trip over that.
I've said that album title so many times because I know the backstory for it. I've read it up. It's a bit dark, but I mean, come on, it's kind of a funny title.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, happy anniversary, you two.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
This podcast has lasted longer than any of my past relationships.
Look, if we last one more year, we will actually last longer than the Confederacy.
Well, that's
Yeah.
a great goal to shoot for now. Let's keep going.
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, we need to keep going.
Buddy.
Hold on. Have you still recording here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have been Ritalin. You can catch me on my website,
Fuck.
ritalin4kids@github.io. I also have a YouTube channel that's linked in the description below. You almost forgot this shit, Dominic.
Dude. I'm Dominic. You can catch me on Twitter at DACICHOCKI. I have a short film on YouTube called Beats under my name, Dominic Chikoki. If you want to find that, you can listen to it, sure, whatever. I'm also on the Games My Mom Found podcast. We just did an episode about Radical Dreamers not long ago. Also, just to mention, this episode is going to be released out of order, so we've been mentioning stuff the entire time that you don't know about yet.
Oh, yes.
To be fair, no one knows about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tricks.
I've been Tricks. You can catch me on Twitter at procrastinaut_. It's like procrastinating astronaut, and then an underscore at the end of it. I have a YouTube. I have a bunch of other shit. Yada yada yada. You can catch us all on Twitter at Dissonant Waves, on YouTube Dissonant Waves, and dissonantwaves.space.
Woo.
And now that we've all gotten COVID, hopefully that is over for us for the time being.
Indeed.
Have a great day, everybody.
You too.
Bye, Ritz.